Hello everyone. So today we will go through the Compose Basics Codelab. So I posted the link for Android Studio, which is required. It's Android Arctic Fox, which is right now the stable version. And let me know if you are able to see the screen. And I will post the link for the Codelab here. So as you know, like it's the very crucial time for the Android development because there are a lot of new things are happening around, like Android 12 is coming, and then there are a lot of new Jetpack libraries like data store or navigation, and lot of things are happening right now. And one of the major change in the Android development is the UI, how we are working with the UI development in Android. And I think since last year we have like Jetpack Compose, which is a new way, and it's a declarative UI toolkit to develop the developer UIs in Android. And if you are a little bit familiar with how Flutter works or how Swift UI works, they're in terms of the syntax, they looks pretty similar. And but the Swift UI and the Jetpack Compose, they're the processing the modifiers or processing the properties, how they process the properties, that are a little bit different. But if you already have a little bit familiarity with the whole Flutter or Swift UI, you will be easily able to work with Jetpack. And so before we begin, we will go through what are the main things we will learn from this one. Yeah, it's the architect folks is required. So if you want to run with Compose, so in this Codelab we will build a common, like a very basic UI with our with Compose, like just a hello world. That's the starting point, I think, for everything. If we're starting with any new programming language or any new toolkit kind of stuff. So we will go through a couple of steps. This code lab is having like 12 or 13 steps, and we will go step by step. And I already posted the link to the code lab and to the studio in the chat, and we will go through step by step. And if you feel anywhere stuck, just comment in the chat so we can help each other and go along and see how it goes. So the first step is like just you can grab there is no any repository for, like, they didn't provide us any initial code base or like the skeleton kind of the project. So what we will do is like in the we need Android Studio for Architect folks. So I already have that one. So the first step is like we will create a new Compose project in Android Studio, and they provided us a default template if we want to create a new project with which will be having everything based on the Compose. So let me share my Android Studio. So we will go to the files and then the new project. And if you see in the new project templates, there is a fourth option, empty Compose activity. So we will select that. Okay, then hit next, and we will name it something like Compose. Okay, and API 21 is the lower version, like the lowest API that Compose supports. So I set it to the API 21, but you can change it if you want. So now our project is building. So yeah, first we will go through the code structure, like how the project structured when we create a new project with the Compose based project. Okay, so when we created a project using the existing template provided by the studio, there is no if you see in the resources, there is no any folder called layouts, because everything in Compose we write everything is a functions, everything written in Kotlin, so we don't need layouts at all. If so, our main project structure includes the theme folder, which is, if you already have this code lab in your studio open, you will see there is a theme and it has a couple of files, colors, shapes, themes, and type. And then there is a main activity. It's already opened in my code in the Android Studio. If you see here, so it comes with the basic structure or the very basic compose function. If you see here, it's a function called greeting. And how actually compose knows that like to what to render to the UI is the composable annotation. So whatever function you have written and you have marked it as a composable, it will be the it will be treated as a UI component. So any layer, like if you have rows, columns, or just a simple text. So this is text. This text is like every UI component is a composable in a Jetpack compose. So composable annotation mark the function as a UI component in our compose based to a UI. And then we are in Jetpack compose, we extending from the component activity, which has a function called like the set content. It's same like the old way we are doing. So rather than passing the layout ID to the set content, like we are doing something like our resources and then layout, then main activity kind of things. But here we are passing our composable. In this case, they have wrapped the surface. This is again the composable, so surface, and then on top of that, it also takes the lambda, which is every almost all the composables they took the lambda, and which is like a the content of that composable. So it might be text or it might be card, list, or whatever. So in this case, they call this function, they pass the greeting as a content of the surface. And the surface also take the color from the material theme here. So as I told you earlier, like in the theme folder, we have a couple of files, and they have come up with the theme. If you see here, so this is the basically the name of the theme is based on how you defined your project, and it will be taking the name and then append the theme to the last of that that your project name. So in this case, it says compose codable theme and Codelab theme, and then there is a function called is system in dark theme. So based on that a value, it will take we are defining the color palettes here at the top of the file. So we have two different color palettes for two different modes. If we want to support dark mode in our Android app, so we will cover the later like how it works. But basically, right now the main thing is this. So we set the content, and we in our that theme that I just show you, we wrap the surface, and then surface has that greeting. And greeting is basically takes the parameter, and what it do is it creates the text composable here. This is the built-in composable, which is there to create a text components. So it takes the parameter, like we append the string that we are getting as a parameter for a greeting and append it and then show to the text. So this is the very basic how compose works, or how compose functions are like work behind the scene with the help of the composable annotation. And if you see at the bottom, there is another function called default preview, but you can name it anything, like maybe greeting preview. So this is really helpful when we like, if we are working with XML, we know that we have like we can see the designs as we go through the designs, right? Like we write the XML file, and then we can open in the different options. Like if you see at there are three options, like entire code or split means like design and code at the same point, or just a design. And same thing for helping us with the building these layouts using compose. Android Studio team, they provided us the way to actually visualize the things before actually deploying our apps, or deploying or committing your work to your code base. So what this and how that works is like this: with the help of this preview annotation, you can preview the compose your UI components before actually deploying, and it saves a lot of time for like actually you are going through the building, then deploying to the app, and then see what's actually rendering on the screen. So right now, if you see here, it says like it needs a successful build to actually render the this composable in our case. And let's hit the build and refresh, and we will see how it works. So if you see, let me a little bit increase. So, so this is how preview helpful in case of when we are designing our layouts using Compose. So if you have multiple things in Compose, like you have multiple functions or multiple UI components, you can create various functions and then just annotate it with the preview, and then provide the value, and it will work like that. And you can change if you want to something like And this is a very cool feature of for the literals. It will automatically push the changes, so it's like a Flutter is a hard restart kind of thing. So if we are changing the literals in our compose functions or previews, it will automatically without doing the build again, it will automatically populate the changes right away. So we will be easily able to like see what's happening on the UI side. I will keep it like that. So this is the very first step of the Codelab. So I hope you are able to go through the first step, like created the main project, and then go through the basics of how preview and composable things are working. And if you are not able to go through, there is also at the each step at the bottom, there is a code lab, like the code to the code lab, but but don't go there. Like you don't like we will go through, like we will do it by our hand, and then if at the end if you find like any issues, you can just open the final solution and see like where we are running behind or if there is any issues. Okay, so as I earlier mentioned, like Compose, it has a way of how to recognize the functions as a UI components. So all the code in Compose, it's written in Kotlin. So your app will be now like no XML at all. Like you will write everything in Kotlin. So if you are good with Kotlin, you are ready to start with Compose. So as I earlier explained, the compose annotation, it makes sure that this function, it will generate or produce a UI component for an Android app. So that part we already done. And so as I told you, like the component activity, it has a set content, but here instead of passing layout, we are passing the compose functions. So it doesn't matter like whatever you want. And this here it says like basic code lab theme, but if you see my code, it says something else. So that name is totally depend on you. If you want to customize that name, you can just go to the theme files and then you can name it your own, like my app theme or my custom theme or whatever. And one of the cool thing is like compose, it basically provides the features from the material theme. So if your app is already having a material theme supported, like they have custom adapters from like they provided adapters like material theme adapter or app compat adapter. We will not going to cover those, but that will help us to like get the values from your XML defined theme. So if you have already existing app, those theme adapters will help you to get the values, fetch the values from those, and then you can easily fetch access those values in your compose functions or composed UI components. So here basically we are getting the material themes values using the colors. And if you have defined your theme, like if you have defined values for all these properties, it will actually pointing to those. Otherwise, material theme has its own set of defined values for the properties like type, background or surface or on primary, those kind of properties. And the next step here is was the preview, like as I told you, like to because we want to see at least like what we are writing, because it's not like XML, like we are not having design at the same time. So they provided a way to actually visualize the things like what we are designing. So if you see here, Leah also explained like there are different options that you can switch between the view of your UI. And here it is, these three, as I told you earlier. Like if you want to split the, like you can see the code as well as the UI, and if you just want to see the design, then it will be the design. Okay, so next, this is the basic template, and I think you are also at that point. Here at this point, we already have a component which just says hello Android, and this is like what we get when we start. So the next step is like tweaking a little bit UI. So let's say what we have in there. So if you see the function, like the main theme here, they want us to do to set the background of the text, and they prefer us to use the surface. And we will see what text we need to cover in this, and then modifiers. So let's go step by step. First, we will do the add the surface behind our text. As I earlier explained, like they already have here the surface here, which is like background here is white. So, but here we want to use the values that we have defined in our theme. And if you see here, we have themes and it has primary colors, and these colors are coming from this color value, color file. And we have here four colors defined, and you can customize here the colors for your application. So one of the main thing is like the shortcut. If you want to wrap any widget, I can say any widget or any compose function, you can just select that function, and then if you are using Mac, you can say Command Option J, and you will get the option. There are three options. Like you can surround it with widget, or with row, or with column. So in our case, we want as the Codelab saying we want to wrap it with surface. So I will go with the widget, and I can just replace it. So this is very quick. Just select the compose, and then the composable unit, whatever you want to wrap it with something else, and then just hit Command Option J, and you will see the different options. And one of the cool option is like the compose team did great work is like they have covered like documented every single function or every single property of compose in such a way that you don't even need to, like, I think, look into the Google or whatever. If you want to if you want to see like what color takes, like surface take it, you go to the documentation, and it explained really well like what color, elevation, whatever those properties, you can just check and provide the values accordingly. So in our case, we want to set the color, and we want to refer through the theme. And if I build it again, so you see here the primary color is coming from the theme that you have in your setup in your file. Like as I show you, like we have defined the purple color, which is like coming by default when we set up the project. So it sets the, now it has two components like surface, and then on top of that surface we have a text. Are you able to doing these things, or anyone, if you feel anywhere stuck, just leave a comment in the section, or so we can just get perfect. So the next step, so as you know, like in XML, like it's not just like writing everything like just text and all that thing. We need to do some fancy stuff, or we need to provide some kind of, like, if you know that accessibility kind of things. So we need to make sure that we have a proper margins, paddings, and all that stuff. So adding those things to the properties to the composable views, every component in compose, they have a property called modifiers. And modifiers, with the help of that modifiers, we can apply padding, borders, and there are a lot of options. Like you can set the weight, you can set the height, and there are tons of options that you can do with the modifiers. So what they want us to do is like to actually do the padding around our hello Android, and we will see how we're gonna do this one. And if you see in the code is also like there is a modifier parameter for the text. So we will go and add that padding. And there is a very there are some built-in templates for compose in Android Studio. So for adding padding, there is a template called pad dp. If you see in the options, it says add padding modifier in dp. So you can just write that and then just pass the value. In our case, I pass a 24. And if you see those red lines, it's just import plus like hit option enter, and it will import the right imports for us. So same for the DP. These are the inbuilt functions. That, like, these are not the custom extension functions that I written. It's built-in functions in the compose. You pass the integer value and call the DP on that, and it will do the trick for you. And then we will build it, and we will see what how it looks. So if you see now, it adds the padding around the hello Android, and this is the step that they want us to do in this particular step, to wrap the text with surface, and then provide some kind of background. And you can change to whatever you want. It's not like let's say I want to do it like that. So you can although I think there is a same color reference, but you can change whatever color you want, and you can also take the direct color. Like if you are not prefer, if you don't want to prefer to the theme colors, you can use the colors. There are some built-in colors, and now you see the input is different here. So background, and we done the modifiers, and in the modifiers there are a lot of other options. As I told you, if you see, there is a list of the modifiers. Like if you want to add a padding, like all the in all the size, all the element in the all sides, or if you want to like start left top or whatever, if you want to set the height, if you want to add a border, width, wrap content size. There are a lot of properties that you can set with the help of the modifier. So in this case, we are just covering the, like adding the padding. Are you guys good with this? Okay. Okay. So I think we are done with the fourth step, which is tweaking the UI. And next cool thing is like if you know that in XML sometimes we have like we want to share multiple XML layout files. Like let's say I have a card and in five different places I have the same card, same component. What we do is like we create a layout and then we like include that layout in XML, right? Like in our different files so that we don't copy same code again and again in five different files. So like one common card and then include it in every different places and then work like that. In composable, as I told you, like they are just functions, and then you here you can figure out like it's your, like as a developer it's our responsibility. If there is something very common at reusing, like we are writing same thing again and again at very different places, we can extract that to the function and then use that composable function wherever we want. So this is like one of the really cool feature, I think, in terms of reusing components. So in this fifth step, what they want us to do is, so we have the greeting function. So they want us to clean up the main on create function. Like we have right now, we have everything defined in there, but they want us to create a separate function. Like as you see in the code, they want us to do something like function to extract the greeting into separate and then just call that instead of directly calling that function. So we will see how we will do that one. So they want us to take this code out of on create and then create a new separate function which is just having this chunk of code and then using that one here. So we will do that. So the shortcut to extract any code into a separate function in the, as I'm using the MacBook, it's a Command Option M. So you just select the code and then press Command Option M, and then you can able to extract it to function. So as in the Codelab, they want us to name it as a my app, but you can name it whatever you want. So I'm just following whatever in the Codelab, so it's easy to see what's happening in the step by step. So now it creates the function, but we don't want it to be in main activity because I don't want it to. We need to access it outside that to preview. So So now if this is the main thing, like we extracted the code into separate new function, and that function is now responsible for my greetings. And if I need to later on, you will see how it helps us to create a different, like when we adding new things or we want to do more customization with the, like when we have a lot of data passing around and then setting some custom properties. So so this is the step for this is the work for this step. I hope you are able to do this one. Just extracting the main code from the on create and just create a separate function. And you need to take it out from the main activity because other, otherwise by default, if you are extracting it, it creates a private function, so we're not able to access it. So now it will be the outside the main activity and it's named my app. Okay, so let's see what's next. So after this step, so that's the full code of the main activity at this point. Okay, we will go to the next step, which is creating columns and rows. So as we already know that, I think now you're familiar, like everything is in composes functions, and for everything, like if you want to stack like in a column form, there is an inbuilt function, inbuilt composable. You can call it function, but composable make more sense here. So there is a column, then there is a row, horizontal for the horizontal layout things, and for the and there is also a box. So in this particular case, we will go through the creating a columns and rows, and we will create a column for, like right now we have a single text piece which says hello Android, but now we'll create a column which has two texts, which first one is like hello and then the second one is like Android, and then we will do the same thing with Android with the row. And you can also, like as I told you, it's everything is written in Kotlin. So if you see in this compose and Kotlin thing, like they pass list of the words, and then they create a column for each word in that list. So right now they have two words here. We will see in a bit in action, but I'm just explaining how they want to explain it. So they wrap the for loop with the column, and then in that they calling the greeting. So we will create a columns and rows in this step. So let's go to the code. So here we have surface, and we have a greeting. Okay, so what we will do is we will wrap it, and then there is like as I showed you, there is a inbuilt shortcut to do that. So we will wrap it with column, and we will call it like Kotlin maybe. Oh my god, my bad. My app surface. Ooh, why that preview is not working? Because if you see the preview code here, I'm not calling actually. I'm not doing the my app thing here. Like I'm not calling the my app, so that's why it's happening here. So if you do like if you comment like whatever function or whatever component you want to render, you need to pass that one. So in this case, it should be not the greeting, it should be a my app. And then if you see now, it shows you this is right now two columns. Like if you see here, there are two columns, and the code is right there. We just call it like that. and and if you don't want to wrap and you want to, there are some, as I told you, like inbuilt templates, and for the to create a row or column there are inbuilt templates. So if you write wc here, you see surround with column, and it will create you the column. And then there is a same for the row, it's a wr, and it says like be surrounded with row. So whatever you have, just like if you want to create a row, just it's a quick shortcut to write columns or rows in your composables. And there it's the same thing for, like if you want to change it to the row, you can just and then rebuild it, and you will able to see the difference. Now if you see here the difference, now in the row it's look like this: hello Android and hello Kotlin, as we have two components here. So this is the way how, if you want to create a multiple columns in your compose ui, or if you want to create a multiple rows in your ui, be able to do this. Let me know if you need a little time here. So okay, but I did it a little bit differently, I think. So if you see the code here, you can try this one by your own, like passing the list of words. This is just a random thing. Like if you want to pass a random list and then create a columns based on that content. So in case here it says like passing the list of names, but I just took the hard coded strings to the greeting and then calling greeting by myself. But that was like, you can just take this code and just to play with it and see how it works. This is very simple. And what I did is like just a simple, like wrapping the column greetings with column, but you can wrap any composable, like any composable. There are a lot of composables, or if you want to create your own custom composables which contains like a lot of things. Let's say you have UI component with image, with name and all that thing, like let's say person card or any item card, you can wrap those also in columns. So this step is to just to give you the demo of how columns and rows works in composables. And also it's like as I showed you earlier, like if you see here, it also has the modifiers, so you can set the padding, border, spaces, or whatever you want. So So we are done with the basic UI components, as the name suggests is the basic Codelab. So next step is state in Compose. So if you are a little bit familiar with Swift UI, there also has a state kind of observers kind of thing. I'm not familiar with that too much, but I played a little bit, and they have same concept of state management. And compose is also working in like the same way to manage the state. And if you are familiar with the flutter, it's like you have a stateful widgets and stateless widgets, but here the approach for managing the data or events to the UI, they have the concept called a state. So in this particular step, they if you see, they added the new button component to the existing layout, existing component, and then adding the, if you see on the click, there is some difference on the size of that particular component, like it shrinks or it expands. So it's basically that we will do it manually to see how it works and what is actually state in this step. So there are Compose has a couple of built-in functions. So to actually create the state properties and then listen, like how Compose actually, it's like they are doing things very smartly. So when you have any state properties in your Compose, so in this case, if you see, they declared this one as a mutable state of, but this is not recommended. As you see, they commented is like don't do this, because whenever there is a state change or anything happens and recomposition is done, this will be reset to the default state in this case, because every time greeting function is called, the mutable the expanded will be set to the false, but that is not the expected, or what we don't want. So they have a couple of functions, like couple of inbuilt functions to manage these states very for us. And one of them is like a remember. So what remember does is like it attaches certain like piece of memory to the compose, and it will take care of the state for us. So what we will do is like we create a variable called expanded. It's a type of boolean, and when we are using the remember it, like then we access the value of that, like as we do for the live data, we say like whatever, like dot value, right? So we get the value, access the value by using dot value property of this expanded mutable state variable. And remember will help us to keep, like whenever there is a composition recomposition done for that greeting card or greeting component, it will take care of the state, like the state will be like remembered based on the last composition. So we will add this one. And what they want us to do is to change couple of things, like they want us to do a little bit extra padding. So what they want us to do is like this is the final outcome that we need to achieve in this step. We need to add the one button, and then on click the we add some kind of like right now they want us to change the text of that button, like it says like show less or show more. So we will add this to our existing compose function. So let's go to the code. So we have greeting here. I will again change it to the greeting so that we can, whatever we add, so we can easily see like what's happening there. Okay, so here I will change. So here is my greeting function, and it has a state and a text, because we want to show button next to the text. So I think that if you see the structure, it will be like a horizontal state, like the placement of those two components. So we will, what I will do is I will wrap it with the row, and then we will add the button to it. So as the compose, it also has like a material components support. There are a lot of, as you know, there are multiple style buttons, right? Outline buttons or text buttons, or there are multiple options like icon buttons. So in our case, like if you can add whatever button you want, so there is no any restriction to use particular. So we will use the outline button, and if you see, it take the parameter like the lambda for on click. So whenever the on click happens, what to do, and then the last lambda is for composable, like what will be the content of that button. So for the moment I will skip the on click, and we will add the text to this one. I will add the same text for that they have in the Codelab. So as I told you, like they want us to use the state in this particular step. So we will create a variable called expanded. So as I explained you, it will it will remember the value for the last composition, and then whenever that there is a change, and how like the smart recomposition is how actually done is like it's based on the state value. So wherever is this expanded will be there is any read to that value, and whenever there is a change in that value, and then the compiler, like the compose compiler, what will do, it will check like it's the same like Flutter, I think. They have some kind of a dirty state of that particular widget wherever there is a change, and then they recompose that particular function. Like it will not like redo the entire UI or entire compose. Like if you have a 10 composables in your UI, it will only check like which one is the right now in the dirty state, and then just recompose that particular set of UI component rather than doing everything. So in this case, on the on click, what we will do is like we just change expanded. So we will set its value is equals to just the opposite. If it's true, set it to false, and if it's false, set it to true. And then we will change its content based on the value of the expanded. We say if expanded dot value, if it's true, then we say show less. So what this actually code is doing is like, let's change it to the final because it's not going to change. So whenever we added two components, let's rebuild and just to see how it looks in the layout file. So this is actually the button, and it's because we don't added any padding or anything around that, so that's why it looks at the very top at the bottom. But you can add padding or whatever. So right now we will go a little bit quickly, like how to like to see like all the functionality. So I added the button, and we have a row. It has a button and it has a text. It says hello Android, and then when we on the click, it will change the value of the expanded. And if you see, it's used in the text of this one. So whenever there is a value change, like whenever the on click happens, it will only recompose that particular compose unit. Like it will not re-render this entire UI. It will just re-render the particular compose where the read happened to that particular value. So I think I need to run the code to actually see it in action. So in the meantime, the build is running. I will show you the like how they actually doing this thing. So they added the state that we already did. So we added the state in the greeting function. Then we added the button as they did, and they have added like they did the proper formatting, and they have now like the button and then the on click. And the final code for this one is like this. So they have surface, and then they add the padding to the surface. Then they have the row, they add the padding. So just to align all the widgets properly, you can use whatever you want, like proper padding, or if you want to add a little bit more space around the things, you can do that. So as we have multiple things, so you see here now the rest of the components are still like at their place, and there is no any recomposition. You can actually debug this to see actually what happens under the hood for us, but actually state reading properties only affected components will be re-rendered whenever there is any change in the state. So we added that, and we are reading that state here. And if you want to change something else, if you want to customize this text or this, or you can remove this component, as we don't require that, I just added for my sake. So yeah, so this step is for the state. I hope you understand the basic concept of how state works, and you able to do this in your side. Good. So as you can go through the final code, if you feel at any point stuck, just take a look like where you missing something. So the next step is state hosting. This is one of the main, like when I started, basically I'm not like a pro kind of thing in Compose. I'm also learning with you guys. So this is very interesting thing. Like as I told you, like whenever there is a change in the state field or property, that recomposition, and then we need to figure out like what to do, because if you where you initialized it, where you are changing that property, it affects a lot. Like if you are doing that at a very long wrong place, it will recompose those all the functions. Let's say you have a 10 compose functions, and you are just passing that value by each compose, like from first to 10th. Then the all those 10 components will be recomposed every time, because the like the read to that property will happen in all those compose functions. So that's why they have this new concept, like this concept in compose, which is called a state hosting. So the basic approach in this case is, I think, oh yeah, they don't have here, but you can check. There is a compose pathway, and then there is a one particular section which is says like thinking in compose, and they explained very well like how they want to do things in compose. Like we are passing the state down to the tree, and then we are sending events to the app. So it's like a unidirectional data flow. And if you see here in the definition, so this is the very important line, or very important when we are like working with compose. Like the source of the truth belongs to whosoever wants, like creates and controls the state. So any composable, like if you like, you need to figure out like which composable will be responsible to create that particular property, and whosoever will gonna be control that property. And then just use the, like don't pass it around like we have functions or whatever. Like you need to use the lambdas kind of things. So in this case, they provide us a sample. So they added the new function which is called onboarding screen here. So they just create a function boolean variable here, should show onboarding or not. Like the normal logic, we have some kind of preferences flag, like next time show the onboarding or not kind of things. So here they are using the by, it's a Kotlin delegation, like how we go like delegate something to something else. So what, how it help us? It like, if you see in the previous step, we call it expanded dot value, but by delegation means like remember will help us to get the value directly. So we don't need to every time write expanded dot value. So here we directly say like should show onboarding, and we get the actual value rather than the value wrapped in the state. So you can also change that line to like this one, just using the delegation, and it will help us to reduce that a little bit extra code and do the stuff for us, like giving the value by unwrapping from the state. So I will check the code. I'm checking the code to what actually we need to do in this one. So they want us to show onboarding, and then they have onboarding screen, then they have or else greetings. So right now we have two things. And if you see that the concept, to try to understand the concept, if you see the show onboarding, it should be managed by the my app, like the main the first component, like the first compose entry point for our application, which is in our case is my app. So it will be the it will be responsible for hosting that state for the entire app, and wherever it gonna be changed, let's say user already seen the onboarding screens, whenever they hit something like done and then change that, so we will update, the state will be updated by the my app, but it will be like as I told you, like the we will do something on the actions rather than on the decomposition of everything. So if we want to set the show onboarding to false, we can maybe have some kind of buttons, and then the on click action we will change the state, and then the my app will be responsible, will be like, because it's reading that property here if you see in the if statement, and from there it will recompose and show the greetings composables instead of the onboarding screen. So in this case I will just take the code here because it will be a little bit easy for to copy. I will take the onboarding screen code and just directly use in our case. Okay, just get a little bit more space here. My app, then we have you might get these errors, and then you just need to import. So I directly take the code for the onboarding screen, so it's just a little bit quicker. So if you see, it takes the lambda, and then on click of that button, on the button, it just call that lambda. And you can add the preview for this one if you just want to preview. So we can pass here. Okay, so takes that. So now I have added the onboarding here. Then we have the my app. So in the my app, we will create the state which will be hold like keep track of the state if the onboarding screen is showing or if we will need to show the greetings. So I will add the state show onboard, let's check what's not resolving, should show. Okay, is there something missing? No. And then the based on that I will check what's why it's not taking that value, and then and here we pass the lambda to update the value of this should show. So we will see why this is not, but Let's say what's the error. It has node method. Get value and it cannot serve as a delegate. Maybe it's yeah, it's not that. Let's change it for the moment to the different one. I will use the value for the moment, and then we can. But you can use that delegation. I think I get it. I'm getting some error. So we are using it here, and then in the onboarding lambda here we will pass it. So by default we set false, and then we'll set true. So if you see now the code is like it will by default the initial state will be the false for the should show on board, and it will execute the else part and shows the greetings. Sorry, show the onboarding, and when on the when the click happens on that button, if you go to the onboarding here, if when the click happens on that button here, it will update the because we are passing that lambda, and it will be executed on the on click of this button, and it will change the state of that value. And it if you see the properties read by the my app here, and it will recompose the UI, and it will show the greetings from there. And to run quickly, you can open this run anything by double tapping control in your Mac. So I will run the app, and we will see if it works as expected. So there is something wrong. Okay, we are doing my app, and if it's true, oh, we are doing the reverse here. So it should be false to show the onboarding, and then from there it will be. So now it says like welcome to the basic code lab. As I just grabbed the code for the onboarding, so you can customize it whatever you want. So whenever the continue happen, like we click on the continue, it switch to that basic the greetings component that we have previously. So this is basically the state hosting concept is like you need to like explore more as you go. This is just the basics, like wherever you need to figure out like wherever that state is like whichever component is more responsible for hosting that, like changing that value or creating that value, then take that value as most as you can to the top to the your composable hierarchy, and then just to change that value you need to like pass it as an action rather than just passing it around as a parameter directly to different composables in your compose functions or compose UI. So I hope you were able to do this step, like adding the onboarding screen, and then adding the click action on that button on the onboarding screen. Okay, so we will go to the next step. And I'm getting some error to using this by remember thing. I think I'm using as Gabber added in the chat. I think I use the val, so that's why that error I'm getting. So you can use this delegation property to avoid that dot value access every time. So this is about the state hosting in Compose, and the next step will be creating a performant lazy list. So if you remember like how we create a lists in old UI, this is like I think this is the selling point to the developers. If you have anyone in your team and he or she don't want to use Compose right away, you can like take this sample code just for the list, and then just show them like, hey, you can easily do this. Like a recycler view, like we create a list, we create adapter, we create items, and then setting adapter and all that things. It takes a lot of boilerplate code, and there is a lot of code. But with Compose, it's just like it depends on how styly or like how many styles or how much customization you want to do with your UI. But for the very basic list, it's just like you just give there is a existing compose inbuilt compose function which is called lazy column, and you can just give it items, and it will do that thing for like it will create a recycler view for you. and it's very easy. Let's see in this step how we gonna do that. So let's see. So if you see here in the code in the greetings now, this will be the demo for like this will be the final outcome after this step. So what I do is like in like a practical terms, like we get the content from the. Okay, perfect. So in terms like we are getting the result or data from the APIs, like we're getting the list. But in this case of like in this case, we are not interacting with the networking kind of part of this with Compose because this is just basic. So we use the hard coded like list of couple of elements and the lazy column, and we will use the lazy compose function, and we will do it. Yeah, you are right, Gabor. I think I get the same error and I need to manually import the get value and the set value ones. Yeah. So if anyone get the errors for that by remember delegation, you can use like import the get value and set value, and you will be good to use that. So let's do the lazy column here to create the like the like to see how we can create the list of items in Compose. So we will go to the greetings. It takes the name and then it creates a row. We will have a row and we will take it as like this surface. Okay, I will wrap it with lazy column. Let's check what it needs: modifiers, state, padding, and it takes content. Okay, think I'm doing something wrong. Let's check to create a. Oh, so it's lazy column, and then it has a fun property called items. Okay, let's check. I think I'm doing something wrong. Let's quickly redo the stuff that I tried to do here. Okay, so let's do it. So it will take the items that we want to render, and we give it a count, and then for each each particular item what we need to render, and we will pass that item, and then from there it will do the rest of the work for us. So we will create a. I will grab the list of code for the hard coded list from here. Like that. Okay. You can directly pass it as a take it in the parameter, and so in this case I create the list of names here, and we will pass here. I actually never added the code how we add the names terms equals to name. I will just grab the code because I never added the lazy columns before, so we will add it and we will see how it works. So it says items. Why it's wrong? Oh, I'm calling the greeting function, my bad. So actually I'm adding in the greeting. So what we can do is like we can just take the random. We need actually do this columns things before the before that. So it takes greetings and it has another function called greetings. But for that, so they want us to take this code. Okay, so we have this greet. So now it will take greeting and we call it greetings. And I will remove the name from this one because this one will be the main, and then we will use the rest of the component directly from there. So what it do is in the greetings they just have a list of thousand and then greetings name equals to name. That's interesting. I think I'm missing something here. So greeting will take that, just that name. Okay, just a sec. Let's check what's going on here. So here we call the greetings. So we don't have any parameters. Okay, that's fine. Then we will go here and it will call the names. What's missing here? So it says just take let's take this code and see if it fixed the issue for us for the moment and we will see how it works. I will just take the code from there and it says items. This lazy is code count key and item content. Okay, so I think that code is not updated. Maybe, but there is something wrong. Okay, name expanded. Hmm, that's interesting. Just a sec. Let me check the. I think we are missing something. So it's lazy column, lazy dot items. Maybe I'm missing some imports, but imports. Yeah, we are missing the imports for the lazy items. So if you find that same issue, you can just take the imports from that and then go from there. So where they take that state. So in the greeting now they have just name, but in our case we have still have the expanded. So I will what I will do is like mutable state expanded. So for the moment I will take that out because they are not using it, and we will set the function direct, and we will not do anything on the outline. This is just to demo the list, like how actually list works. Okay, and onboarding is working fine. So now we set the what we do is like we created the new function called greetings here, and we have hard coded list which is 1,000 elements, and with the help of the lazy column it will helps to to do the create the recycler view in terms of compose for us. So we will do the rebuild and if everything works fine, it should be good to go. Okay, we will see if it works. So this is because I didn't added the padding and everything to set the. If you set just to the fill the max size, there is a properties in the compose. You can like it will take the entire space and then you can add the space around the widgets. So now we have like this is the easiest like the way of creating the recycler recycler view, or I can say the list of items in compose. So if you able to do that, I think you will be able to like properly design the list item. But for me, I just didn't add the padding kind of things.
Nav. So we're 3 minutes until the allotted time is over.
Okay.
Um, I so how would you like to handle this?
So what we will do is like I think the best thing is we can do create a the Slack channel for this code lab, and we will allow people to do there by their own. And if they feel any issues, they can just Slack in there, and we can continue from there.
Yeah, perfect. I'm gonna post a link to Android Worldwide Slack in case anybody wants to join
Yeah.
there and ask questions.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sure.
let's see. All right, posted. It's a really well made code lab, so I mean maybe people won't feel inclined to ask any questions, but yeah, I mean Nav's been super active in that channel for a long time. Like he's always been
Yeah.
responsive. So yeah, cool.
Sounds good. So yeah, if you want to do by your own, then yeah, yeah, but that's right. That's the next step, but we are like over time, I think. So yeah, that will be the to do for you guys. Like if you are just using the remember and there is any configuration change happening, like rotating the device, like your orientation changes or anything like that, you will be see that how that behaves. And then there is a new like there is a compose has a function called which is like the step 10th, which is says persisting the state, and it has a composable like remember savable, I think it called, and it will save the value across the configuration changes. So when let's say the user expanded your card, next time if there is any configuration change, you want to see the state of your UI as you left, right? So that will be the interesting, and the next steps are really interesting, and you can continue by your own. And if you have any questions or issues, we can chat in our Android Worldwide Slack channel. So we have any questions, or we have time for questions, or
Yeah, if anybody wants to ask some questions, definitely feel free to post them. Uh, some, there's two questions in the Q&A right now. One of them I'm not really sure is fitting.
I see, but even I didn't check the Swiggy like app, so I can check, and you can build anything I think with Compose. So there is nothing that you can't do. I think as I'm also exploring, so I'm not like a pro Compose kind of thing. So yeah, I think you can do anything with Compose. So there is no issues. Like there is a learning curve, but yeah, it can be like doable. I'm not sure, but it can be doable. Yeah, it's I think stable enough to add into production apps. And then there are like lot of companies, like big companies, like they are already using it in production, so you can use it. Yeah.
You want to skip the next question?
Did you understand even that one?
Oh,
So
that's sorry. I'm clearly so tired that I just clicked that. Yeah, I'm running on my first coffee, and well, I think it's almost beer time. So sleep will happen later, but my ability to contribute will definitely decrease as the evening goes farther. All right. Thank you for that, Aaron. Nav, thank you so
yeah,
much for this. This is our first Codelab at Android Worldwide, and I think I feel like it was kind of nice. Relatively engaging. I considered it engaging. I participated, and now I feel like I at least have written some I've used the @composable annotation. Most of the rest of it I copy pasted as I was going along. So, but I did write that annotation. So that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, that's the first step. So you are in the right direction.
All right. I think we have a 15-minute break now. No, half-hour break. Ooh, nice. All right, guys, let's go chill. Nav, are you gonna hang around?
Yeah. We can I think I will be available on any table. We'll see. I will switch through tables and we will see how it goes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
See you
Thank
guys
you,
at
man.
the table.
Okay,
Thanks, Nav.
Thanks.